Feedbackthemagazine.com caught up with the president and CEO of the SCLC, Dr. Charles Steele, following the Women's Empowerment Luncheon. He gave his thoughts on the organization's most notable figure. Plus, why does Steele view himself as a trailblazer? Next on feedbackthemagazine.com.
Yeah, I do in many ways consider myself a trailblazer due to the fact that I was one of the first black city councilmen in Tuscaloosa in coming out of the civil rights movement as president of the local chapter of SCLC, and also the first black state senator since Reconstruction.
At the 60th annual SCLC National Convention, the Story organization celebrated its 50th anniversary of the Poor People's Campaign that was planned in December 1967 by the late Martin Luther King Jr. and others to suggest a move from civil rights to human rights. Steele stated King's contribution to the Poor People's Campaign meant the world to him.
It means everything. First of all, Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. first realized he needed a poor people campaign when he was in Marks, Mississippi, and he saw the impoverishment of the people there in Marks. They didn't have any food. The babies and the children had swollen bellies like a third world country. That's when Dr. King made the point, and with this point gave him a target to be assassinated. He was killed for two reasons. Marks, Mississippi was number one, but in Riverside, New York, Riverside Church, that was April 4th, 1967. He was assassinated April 4th, the irony of that, April 4th, 1968. But April 4th, 1967, when he gave his speech at Riverside Church, when he opposed the Vietnam War. That was his first time that Dr. King knew that the government was really going to come after him when he took that stand. And then Marks, Mississippi, when he came January 1968, and he said to Dr. Abernathy, Ralph David Abernathy, he said, Ralph, and he cried for the first time in public in Marks, Mississippi. He said, we have to march and go and demonstrate in Washington, D.C. with the Poor People Campaign because America is too rich to have any poverty to the degree that we have it today. We must make everybody a citizen economically and have access to capital. When you don't have capital in a capitalistic society, you might not be horizontally laying out in a casket, but you're walking around dead.
It's been 55 years since the March of Washington was held in Washington, D.C., where Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. delivered his iconic I Have a Dream speech. Dr. Steele told feedbackthemagazine.com that the 1964 Nobel Peace Prize winner will be extremely dissatisfied with the strides of African Americans today.
I think he will be disappointed due to the fact that people don't understand the difference between having freedom and then having citizenship. See, you can be free and still not be a citizen because of the embedded rights that goes along with the citizenry of your participation in a country. We just lost the 1965 Voter Rights Act in 2013 when Section 4 and Section 5 of the 1965 Voter Rights Act was gutted. Again, Section 4 and Section 5 of the 1965 Voter Rights Act was gutted. When it was gutted, in order to not have the Justice Department to clear any discrepancies when it comes to changing districts in voting in local, state, and federally. When that was gutted, and we allowed that to be gutted without giving an executive order, we should have pressed for an executive order from the president at that time, and also we should have marched and filled up the streets. When we did that and gave a pass to us not going back, reestablishing the 1965 Voter Rights Act with Section 4 and Section 5, we gave state rights back to the states, which means we're not protected by the federal government anymore. We're second-class citizens.
One of the objectives of the March on Washington that Dr. King and the SCLC was seeking was jobs, peace, and freedom. But the current SCLC President CEO, Dr. Charles Steele, believes that achieving freedom is something blacks have to combat.
Freedom is something you fight for every day. Having freedom is a constant fight. You can't pass a bill and say we free. You can't have a black president say we free. You can't have a person being elected and say we free. That's just a part of the process. Freedom is something you have to fight for every day, because every time you enhance and gain your freedom, there's a conspiracy to take it away from you.
Steele, who was inducted into the International Civil Rights Walk of Fame in 2018, said it was an honor to join past inductees such as actor Sidney Poitier, actress-singer Lena Horne, and former Atlanta Mayor and Ambassador Andrew Young.
That honor means everything to me. When I was inducted into the International Civil Rights Walk of Fame in Atlanta, Georgia, with the other aspect of my predecessors with outstanding names, I felt that at some point in time, it really doesn't matter, but it does, because the people that believe in you want to see you with those type of recognitions because of the work you do. It wasn't for me. It was for my family, number one. It was for my friends and supporters of me for many years.
Charles, who in 1994 made United States history by becoming the first African-American ever elected to serve in the Alabama State Senate, serving 3 terms, believed that integration didn't hurt blacks.
Well, integration per se didn't hurt us. We just forgot about the economics. We were so excited about mingling and being around other people of persuasion and complexion that we were so anxiously involved with integrating, where we check into a hotel but we can't check out. You know, you can check in, but you don't have enough money to check out. You have to go out the back door, like people used to leave when they owed the renter in the shotgun housing, and we didn't have no houses of our own. They will always leave out at midnight. So you check into a hotel, and at midnight you try to get out of there without anybody seeing you, because we did not have an inclusion of an entrepreneur business plan. Let me say this. Section 8 we all know about. That came out of SCLC. Section 8, dealing with housing and public housing and rental houses, that came out of SCLC. But there's also another section that's called Section 3, deals with entrepreneurship. Why this government is not bringing about those opportunities for us, but other people of complexion and persuasion knows about this. Our folks don't know about Section 3. That's a first cousin to Section 8 within the Housing Act. We have a systemic problem, economics, slavery, and nobody is informing our people. Dr. King said in his 6 principles, the first 2, you gather information. We got the information, we got the facts. After you get the facts, you educate the public. We are educating our people to the fact that we are worse off today than we were 50 years ago.
Steele surmises that African Americans are more worse off today than 50 years ago because of racism. He added the reason why people aren't privy about Section 3 is because blacks don't have individuals in those positions.
You have to have people in the position of information to tell our people. People so busy with trying to survive, so busy with trying to take on their own responsibility. Don't forget now, let's not pretend that we don't have problems with poor people. It's getting to the point now, like when I was in Brazil, you either rich or you poor, nothing in the middle. The problem is that we have 140 million people that's going to work every day, living from check to check. 50% of the people that owns a checking account or have a checkbook, 50% cannot write a $250 emergency expense after they pay their monthly bills. I'm gonna say that again. 50% of folks who own checking accounts cannot write, after they pay their monthly billings, cannot write a $250 emergency check that would not clear with their checking account. It will automatically bounce because we as a people, poor people of all background and ethnicity, regardless of your color, but you know, if other folks got a cold, we got pneumonia. Black folks catch it more than anybody. So if it's normally the case that 50% of the people on checking accounts can't write a $250 check after their monthly bills, then that means black folks can't even write a $100 check after the regular bill when you include all the poor people. We even catch more of the systemic conspiracy of being without the access to capital or without money than other folks.
Living on Section 8 has been frowned upon within the black community for decades, and Steele, a former two-term city councilman in Tuscaloosa, Alabama, asserted that misinformation is the reason for that notion.
Because of misleading representation from the government, Dr. King said the government is the enemy. And the government put out all of this falsifying information in terms of welfare. Well, have you ever thought about corporate welfare? They don't call that welfare. When you bail out these major companies and you bail them out and give them bonuses, because I can make it too. If you give me $3 or $4 million every time I get low on my money, you should still come back for another infusion of money. I can be successful too. They help with corporate welfare, but they look down on us as citizenry. When we ask for a heads up, they call it poor people are lazy. Poor people want to be on food stamps. Poor people don't have the enthusiasm or the motivation or the education to get ahead. But I beg to question, why do you bail out corporate America and you look down on the rest of the citizenry in America and call us poor and lazy because we are people of color?